G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Good, Bad and Ugly for round 22 of the 2023 AFL season. Another cracking round of AFL footy in the books, and we are now starting to get to the pointy end of the finals deciding games. So let's get straight into the video. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy today's video, and let's get into it. So the first game kicks us off with the Friday night game. The Pies getting that expected bounce back victory over the Cats by only 8 points in the end, even though it probably was around a 3 to 4 goal better side of Collingwood on the night after that 𝐼𝐻𝐬 junk time goal after the siren. But kicking this game off, well, the Cats looked quite good out of the blocks in that first term. Looked very efficient going inside 50. Every time it just went in there, they were kicking goals, and it looked like it was a bit of early siren warnings or early alarm bells ringing for the Pies' defence, especially with Darcy Moore going down with that hamstring. So you had players like Murphy and Maynard really need to stand up, and from that second term onwards, they really did. You could tell from that second quarter, from what we did see, the Pies were starting to edge their way towards, getting that momentum and getting, a bit of scoreboard pressure their way. They weren't able to execute well in that first half, but they're starting to be a bit more, proactive and show a bit more intensity when moving the ball. When from that second half onwards, we could just see that the Pies just blitzed the Cats on the transition, especially whenever they intercepted. You had Murphy with a big second half. He was able to get the ball forward quickly. It was just a sort of Pies win. They played the game on their terms, especially in that second half. They were able to break free from congestion and just find options over the top. With that fourth quarter, well, the Cats did come home strong and look like, hey, maybe a upset could be, or not an upset, a comeback could be on the cards here. But geez, they had some terrible turnovers in that back half. The Cats, 𝐼𝐻𝐸 turnover, 𝘬𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐸 had a few poor defensive moments he wished he could have back, and the Pies just gulped them up off the turnover. Still a dangerous team, Collingwood. Heading into this game, I felt they would bounce back, and they sure did. They played the game on their terms. They just blitzed them in ball movement. Yeah, it's another case of no Selwood, no Geelong from what I did witness that game. Tom Atkins still had a very good game in the coalface, but I felt they didn't really get enough from the likes of Bowes and Bruin and also Max Holmes. And defensively, they sort of really did fall apart. And, like the likes of de Koning and 𝘬𝐻𝐿𝐸, I felt had pretty subpar games. But in terms of the Pies, there were some fantastic players. Josh Dacos, in absence of his brother, just a criminally underrated player he is. He was awesome alongside the wings. Loved Murphy's game. He was awesome too. 𝐼𝐻𝐸 did the business, and of course, Jeremy Cameron with the 7 goals. Probably should have been 6 or 5, given a few of those goals probably were out of bounds. In fact, that one that snap he did in the fourth term was definitely out of bounds. But he's just still showing superstar quality this year. Jeremy Cameron wasn't enough to get the Cats over the line, and I think now we've got enough data to say they're probably not going to be winning the flag this year. Still think they can make finals, but just based off, it's just evident based off what we've been seeing in their midfield and their back line. Just don't think they're the business this year. But yeah, the Pies, a strong bounce back. Win it by 8 points on Friday night. Now move on to the Saturday afternoon games. First one here, we did see the Bombers get another close win against one of the lower ranked teams of the competition of North Melbourne by 9 points. Right out of the blocks, North started this game tremendously well, kicking the first few goals. And this is the thing with North, when they are up and about, they can be a very good clearance side. And I feel like with Essendon, either you can beat them with ball movement or you can just beat them around the footy and in the coalface. And I just felt around the footy, North were just a bit more harder edged in more situations. But as the game did grow on, Essendon were able to be the mature team enough to get those important goals back and lift, I felt, in the midfield. Darcy Parish, thought his game was really, really good. He's sort of been, slammed in the press a bit for being a bit of the overrated player and not really working hard defensively, but felt his output was very good on the weekend. Nick Martin playing on the wing, sensational, probably the best on ground, kicking 3 goals, having 32 touches. And yeah, when the game got right to the death, could have been a bit of a 50-50 result, but I felt the Dons were more cleaner enough and more clutch enough in the more dire situations to get the important result over the Kangaroos. And yeah, that's the thing with North Melbourne. You give them so much respect for a few of these close losses, but they just keep on losing them. And it's just the losing culture they have at the moment. They just can't find ways to win, and it's again just too many players on the side displaying poor ball skills. They had some poor turnovers. They had opportunities to really take the game by the throat and potentially win it, but they just couldn't. They had a lot of chances when there was just a bad hand pass or a bad kick or a bad turnover. But yeah, just felt the Dons were a bit more clear in a few areas to get the win. Bit of a disappointment for Ben Cunnington though, getting a loss in his final game, but he still had a fantastic day out and definitely a shining light or a shining highlight in North Melbourne's very, very poor and low season with 2 goals and 24 touches. A great servant he's been to the footy club. And alongside Cunnington, there were a few other North Melbourne players that did really catch my eye. 𝐼𝐿𝐷, he just tried his heart out in that midfield. Felt like Taron Thomas had a pretty clean game. 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐪, halfback, really nice year he is having. And of course, shout out to 𝐼𝐷 𝐼𝐿𝐷, kicking another 5 goals. Had a bag on the weekend, and he gained some great separation away from 𝐓𝐡𝐞, kicked some nice goals. And yeah, just in a low-ranked team this year, 𝐼𝐿𝐷, what he's been able to do now, kicking over 50 goals. He's had a remarkable year. The young gun of 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐷 kicked his first goal in AFL footy, had 23 touches, looked great in the midfield rotation. But yeah, Essendon will definitely be backing that win and yeah, avoiding a bit of embarrassment against North Melbourne. Now for the next game, we did see the Swannies get the job done over the Gold Coast Suns by 24 points. The first half, from what we did witness, we felt like, well, is this going to be potentially another Suns upset against the Swannies? I love playing the SCG, the Suns, but it wasn't meant to be in that second half as the Swans really started to, get a bit more harder edged around the footy. They were getting smacked in stoppages, especially defensive 50 stoppages, conceding a lot of goals off that. But after half time, they made the right adjustments, led by Rowbottom. His third term was magnificent. They were able to beat Gold Coast around the footy. Rowell and Anderson felt they had great games, but yeah, just collectively as a midfield, they really did, really lift in that second half. And when they were able to get the ball inside 50, they just had the targets to put on the scores and put on the points. And that's where the Swans have been very good. Their ball movement, their transition, and their efficiency going inside 50 and actually shots a goal has been some of the best in the competition the last 5 or 6 weeks. This is pretty much one of the key reasons why they do have 5 wins in a row. And yeah, it just was a huge second half from them. Charlie Warner, even though he had a few poor moments, he still was great, kicking 2 goals and 28 touches. Tom Papley with a goal, and then you're seeing a few of those important forwards for the Swannies get on the scoreboard. Will Hayward with 4, McDonald with 3, McLean with 2, Heaney with 2. They got plenty of output from their star forwards, and it's just another win where they're just winning off ball movement and winning off efficiency. And good kicking is good footy, so they'll definitely take that. But yeah, they'll be disappointed with that first half. The Suns did really well around the footy, but the Swans made their adjustments. And yeah, we're just able to beat the Suns around the footy and get a solid win, and well-deserving win by 24 points. Next game here, we did see the Brisbane Lions get another close and crucial victory over the Adelaide Crows by 6 points to keep their top 4 hopes, or top 2 hopes alive, as they are now sitting comfortably in second place at the time of recording this after the round. Geez, if you're an Adelaide fan, you'd definitely be disappointed though. You're proud and disappointed. You've had a lot of gallant performances and gallant losses this year, but this is probably now could be season over if the Crows do not win against the Swannies on Saturday night. It's just another close loss, and yeah, it's just, there's 2 ways to look at it. I think with the Crows, they have been good enough to win games, but they've just lacked execution, especially in the fourth quarters. Accuracy has really let them down. I think they're one of the worst teams in the competition the last few weeks for actually shots at goal, being terribly inaccurate. It was 15 goals 9 to 13 goals 5, so more scoring shots this game. But yeah, I felt the Crows were really hard at it around the footy. They were going really well inside 50, started really strong too, and they broke even in the contest against a very good clearance side of the Brisbane Lions. And when you can do that, if your pressure's up and about, and if you're going well inside 50 and you're going well, I felt they were really good off the turnover and made the Lions pay with a few of those turnovers, and just the transition of the ball was really good from the Crows too. So they were just always in this game, so it was a great performance from them. But it's just a class of, I think, the Lions forward half that can just win them games with something out of nothing chances. And we saw Zach Bailey, we saw Charlie Cameron have some big moments inside 50, and those are your players that win you your games. And it's a shame with Gunston going down, so they probably do play a bit small, the Lions. But yeah, just the quality of their forward half players, I felt were the difference in that game. 𝐓𝐿𝐷 𝐿𝐷, his last 2 months, he's played some brilliant footy. He's now starting to really able to find the scoreboard. forward, playing a bit more half forward, and also, of course, playing in the midfield as well. 28 touches and 2 goals for him. Thought Harris Andrews had another superb game. Back there, had some nice composed moments in those dire situations. But yeah, Zach Bailey, even 𝐼𝙗𝐿𝐼𝐴 𝐼𝐿 from half-back, he's having a really nice run at it as of late. But yeah, just those key plays, McCarthy, Bailey, of course, Charlie Cameron, I felt were the difference for the Lions win on Saturday afternoon. Moving on to the Saturday night games here, we kicked off with the Blues getting a huge 4-point win over the Melbourne Demons. Of course, there's plenty of controversy with this game. Was Marchbank's attempt to touch it, was it touched or was it a goal? Initially, I thought it was a goal, but from a few angles I saw, I felt it was touched. But yeah, after the game with all the different camera angles, probably was a goal. But honestly, as I always do say, I never like to look at those umpire moments that decide games and all that whatnot, because I just felt that Carlton were just the better team. Their second half was very, very good. They were just harder at it against the Demons. Their ball movement was the difference in that game. They were just able to really find targets well and move it with pace and take the game on against Melbourne. And Carlton's defence has been in superb form as well, restricting Melbourne to 56 points, who have been a side that, I've been putting on some big points the last few weeks or so, is remarkable. The game started off in a very obscure fashion as well. I think Carlton had like 25 inside 50s to 5 or something, and throughout that sort of a stage they were losing somehow. They were terribly inefficient when going inside 50. At the end of it, they had 28.3% efficiency inside 50. So there you go, where the average is around 48%. So they were pretty terrible going in there, but they were just so good on getting enough supply to get it inside 50 and eventually had their targets. And I think the second half was the really big turning point for them. They were able to finally execute. It's a bit of a low-scoring game. Goals really did come as a premium. So yeah, I felt there's a lot of heavy congestions, a lot of ball ups, a lot of stoppages. But the fourth quarter, where was the turning point as well, is I got a few important goals from those stoppages. Paddy Cripps' second half was sensational, still without Sharon Walsh. He really did lift, and Paddy Dow had a great game. And yeah, I think it was pretty even in the midfield. I think Melbourne throughout times got on top of the midfield a little bit. Yeah, it's probably just one of those weeks for the D's where they probably did struggle to find their avenues inside 50. Carlton really rebounded well off their back 52. Nick Newman was really good. Brody Kemp's game was sensational. A lot of those role players are really starting to lift for the Blues, and just everyone's playing their part. This is why the Blues are picking up results. And yeah, probably from that second half, felt the Blues the better side. But yeah, a few late goals to the D's. Was going to go right to the Y, Petrarca, all that crazy stuff at the end. The Blues do hold on, and probably deservedly. I just felt they were the better side in this one, given their dominance early on, a little bit better around the footy, and their ball movement I felt really did win them the game, and got a few important goals off the stoppages. So yeah, they're just humming at the moment, the Blues, 8 wins in a row, and they'll be playing finals in 2023. How bloody good. Then the next Saturday night game, we did witness a bit of a snooze fest with the Free Dockers getting a huge 100-point win over their crosstown rivals of the West Coast Eagles. I think they kicked something like 17 or 18 goals in a row after the Eagles kicked 2 goals early on in the game. But a sensational performance from the Dockers. Their highest winning margin against the Eagles ever in the Western Derby. How about that? 𝘧𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐴 was the best player on ground, winning the Glendenning Medal, I'm pretty sure it is called, kicking 5 goals. And this is a bit of 𝘧𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐴's season. Just a very, very underrated player. I love the way he goes at it. But he was the impact, kicking 5 goals. And yeah, just after really quarter time, you could see the dominance starting to show from the Dockers. Much better around the footy. And pretty much the Eagles' defence was non-existent, and it just felt like every time it went inside 50 for the Dockers, it was resulting in a goal, with the Eagles looking non-existent in defence. Poor result from West Coast. Didn't really look too competitive after quarter time. They were quite shocking and couldn't really get much possession of the ball. Brayshaw, 33 touches. Sarong with 30. Jordan Clark, drive from halfback, was sensational. Hayden Young's games were really good. Young's really blossoming in his new role in the midfield. Luke Jackson, as the solo ruck, had a really good game as well. For the small forwards, Sturt, 𝐬𝐿𝐼𝐴, young gunner Matt Johnson was really nice as well. Pretty much just a complete team performance from the Fremantle Dockers. Really dominated a lot of areas of the inside 50s. They were very good around the ball. They'll definitely take that win though, the Dockers. Won't be making finals, but hey, the last month or so they've been very competitive. They've had some gallant displays against some good quality sides. A few of them losses, a few of them close wins. So yeah, the last few weeks they'll be pretty proud. Still got a very young side, the Dockers, so let's hope they can rebound next year. But a huge win over the Eagles by 101 points. Moving on to the Sunday games now, we have got another Hawthorn upset. I did fall for the bait with tipping the Hawks again, and it actually did pay its dividends as they got the win over the Doggies by 3 points. Crazy finish this one was. The Doggies came home strong, but they just never looked like winning this game. Probably after quarter time, they started the game really well, kicking the first few goals in a row, but after that poor start from the Hawks, they've had a few of that this year, a few games this year where the Hawks have started really bad, especially in their midfield. They just really regrouped as a group, and honestly, from after quarter time, the poor was mostly just in their forward half. They just couldn't execute on the scoreboard. Neither team could. It seemed pretty windy down there in Tassie, but yeah, after quarter time, they just were pretty much the better team. They looked a lot better around the footy. 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐷𝐼 went down with concussion, so with no 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐷𝐼, you could just see it was a massive just piece of their heart ripped out of their midfield for the Doggies. With no 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐷𝐼, they were unable to really get the ball forward too much. Bontempelli couldn't really do much of an influence. It was the 𝐼𝐵𝐿𝐼𝐷𝐼 show. His game was superb. Had 40 touches. He was just everywhere. The Doggies midfielders didn't really give him much respect, as he was just the nucleus in in that midfield for the Hawks. Very, very good in the clearance game. They're able to win that over a good clearance side of the Bulldogs. The stoppages were the difference for them too. And yeah, just as the game grew on, they just were able to eat away at the lead. Finally get in the lead and get it out to a bit of a buffer. But yeah, still a bit of a, skills-wise, it was a bit of a scrappy game. But yeah, just in the trenches, in and under, felt the Hawks were better around the footy. They had the damaging options inside 50 when they went in there. They had some nice options, the likes of 𝐓𝐡𝐞 had a few nice marks inside 50. A lot of individual goal scorers though, so there wasn't any clear-cut best plays to the Hawks in terms of hitting the scoreboard. They just had such an even spread. The Doggies were just terrible when moving the ball. They had a lot of poor turnovers, couldn't get in their forward half, and yeah, they just were outdone by a young and up-and-coming star midfield of the Hawks. So credit to Hawthorn, bit of a scrappy win their way. The Doggies did come home strong, kicking the last few goals in the game, but they're able to hold on and pick up another really impressive win. They're going to be a very, very scary side, I feel like, in the next few years, the Hawks. Even though they've been a bit inconsistent this year, you can just tell the core is there for the Hawks. Another great win against a pretty respectable side of the Doggies by 3 points. Next game here, we did see the Saints get a massive win over the Richmond Tigers by 36 points. I don't know how to look at this one. I felt St Kilda were just quick out of the blocks. They were able to really find their options inside 50. They took the game on and they just dominated a Richmond with just moving the ball. The Tigers were absolutely awful defending transition. They couldn't really get any sort of momentum throughout the game. And honestly, the game was pretty much over at quarter time. The Saints kicked a big score to kick things off, and they're just completely off the pace at the moment. The Tigers, they won't be making finals this year. Their last fortnight of footy has been terrible, and if this was against a bit more of a higher scoring side usually, this one could have been absolutely ugly, but the Saints did the damage, and credit to them. In the midfield, they really did lift from last week's poor second half against the Blues, and where they did get them is just off intercepting and off transition and turnover, moving the ball. The last few weeks or so, the Saints have definitely upped their game with their ability to score, and that's a good thing, because when they put on a bit of a score, they usually do win the game of footy. And yeah, going inside 50, they had their options. Jade Gresham was getting on the scoreboard. Max King kicking 6 goals. That's great to see. I feel like he's had a bit of a up and down year, but when he's able to hit the scoreboard, the Saints usually do win the game of footy. Callum Wilkie had another masterclass game. He was sensational on his opponent. His intercepting ability was great. Really like Zane Cordy's game down back as well. It's like, is it either going to be him or Dougal Howard sort of fighting it out for a bit of a defensive spot? But his game, I felt, was really good. Is Rowan Marshall honestly a chance for the All-Australian ruckman spot? I feel like his past month, or really the whole year, he's just been so underrated, being that around the ground ruckman. And finally, the thing I really did love about the Saints win is when you just see a bit of class seeping through their side, you know, that, hey, there could be a team that could potentially be damaging. 𝘼𝐵𝐿𝐼𝐷𝐼, 𝐵𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼 and Mitch Owens. I thought they had some sensational games, and also Mitch Owens. Just every possession he gets, he just looks so clean, and every disposal he does was awesome. And Phillippo kicking a few goals too. I really liked a few of their plays in the midfield. Ross had a great game. We talked about Marshall. Steele as well had a better game than last week. Yeah, just the ball movement was the difference I felt for the Saints. They took the game on well. They found the avenues towards goal, and they just outdid the Tigers in defence. But yeah, the Tigers just been poor the past fortnight. Foot skills have been awful. They've just been outdone in the contest, in defending transition has been their absolute weakness. But yeah, huge win for the Saints as they get a step closer towards playing footy in September. And for the final game of the round, we did see Port Adelaide finally get back in the winner's circle with a huge 51-point win over the GWS Giants. The Giants now have dropped their last 2 games in a row after going on a nice 7-game win streak, and maybe the Giants are now starting to show a bit of issues. The past fortnight or so, they have been not so great defending transition, and it was on display again. They just could not contain Port Adelaide's midfield. They didn't pressure well enough in when the ball was in their forward half, because I just felt this game was such a free-flowing game for Port Adelaide. They managed to kick a big score, but just the ability for them to just move the ball end-to-end with ease was just the surprising thing for me. Usually the Giants have been very good as a back six. They weren't able to really get a hold of those Port Adelaide forwards, as it was just a day for Port Adelaide for a lot of their forwards to get on the stat sheet in terms of goals. 𝗲𝐼𝐼𝐼 last week or so has been great. Another 3 goals for him. Toddy Marshall did really well on his direct opponent of Sam Taylor. Horn Francis, 27 goals and 3, and some of his goals were quality too. Bergman kicked 3 goals in the first term. Finlayson and Burn Jones, a few of the goals from the midfielders. 𝐵𝗨 𝗶𝗶, every disposal is damaging for him. Yeah, just their forward half really did eat up on a lot of opportunities, and yeah, it's a bit of a shame for the Giants. They just were poor defensively and weren't able to lock it in their forward half or really win stoppages. So yeah, a bit of a down game for them, the Giants. But yeah, Port Adelaide are definitely one of the top forward half teams in the competition. They made the most of their chances. Did really well, plus 14 inside 50s, won the clearance game. And it might be a cliche saying, but you see the likes of Zach Butters, Connor Rozee, Jason Horne-Francis, when they are up and about, Port Adelaide are going to play a good game of footy. They've got plenty of supply inside 50, and yeah, they just had so many avenues towards goal. So a massive confidence-boosting win for Port Adelaide, as they are now definitely confirmed to be playing top 4 footy in 2023. So everyone, there was another episode of The Good, Bad and Ugly for round 22 of the 2023 AFL season. Just 2 rounds left in the home and away season, so things are really starting to tighten up on the ladder. It's so unpredictable with the ladder at the moment. I'm really keen to see how these final 2 weeks do pan out. Feel free to comment down below and let me know what you thought of the round itself. There was for sure a lot of season-defining games, that is safe to say, so I'd love to hear your fellas' opinions. And yeah, apart from that, everyone, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did go on to enjoy today's video. And until next time, I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.